Welcome to Alpha Foxtrot, the Always Forward podcast, episode 3. Today we're joined by the only man with the fuel to build an empire that we can all envy, Mike Rufail. Just to clarify, for those listening, he's the owner of Envy, Dallas Fuel for the Overwatch League, and Dallas Empire for the Call of Duty League. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you guys for having me.
So we'll hit the esports in a second, but I have one question I kind of wanted to shotgun with you because I was absolutely fascinated by this. We were trying to do our research, so we knew what we wanted to hit with you and everything. So if everything stands correct for what I saw, you went to UNCG, University of North Carolina, Greensboro.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so with that said, I need to know what's your go-to at Yum Yums.
Oh man, yeah, Yum Yums for I guess none of you who know out there probably. It's this little ice cream and hot dog shop that's right on Spring Garden, which is Spring Garden Avenue, which goes right through the heart of the University of North Carolina Greensboro campus. Famous little ice cream shop. I was a mint chocolate chip guy.
Okay.
Yeah,
my dad always had me stuck on the black cherry.
Yeah, it was mint chocolate chip.
Nice. Yeah, my whole family is originally from Greensboro, so any trip isn't finished without Yum Yums, Cookout, and Stamey's.
Yeah, those are staples there. It's funny, you know about that.
Yeah, no, I saw that. I was trying to do my research. I saw it, and I was like, I need something to confirm this because this is awesome. Like, no one knows Yum Yums unless you've been there. So
yeah. Well, yeah, Yum Yums. That's hard to forget that place.
Oh, absolutely. So no, I had to hit you with that. I was absolutely shocked by that and excited. So
I'm impressed. You know what that is.
well, thank you. No, it's one of my favorites. So just to kind of get started, I guess we'll start. How did you turn like a full an esports team into a full empire? I mean, pun kind of intended, but you've managed to take Envy and then completely blow it up into just the Fuel Empire, and then Envy competing in its own leagues as well.
Yeah, everybody's story is probably a little different in esports. With the team owners and founders of the esports teams and players, and I mean, everybody's got their own path that they took. I think ours was really just built on winning, man. I mean, it really was. That was the biggest contributor to the success that we had as a growing organization. And I think, we also just made some really good decisions along the way in terms of, obviously with competition, good scouting and, expanding into certain games when we thought it was right for our brand. And we did a good job of doing that and had lots of success pretty much everywhere we went. We really were a competitor, for probably, top 4 in pretty much any game we entered. We're one of the only teams with, 4 or more kind of world championship claims. The fact that you won the biggest tournament in a game that year. I think we could actually claim 5 if we call it the biggest tournament and not a world championship. So we really were just super competitive and predicated the business on winning and having a winning attitude and working really hard.
What kind of was it that made yourself want to pursue honestly owning a team instead of, because I know you competed in Call of Duty, instead of pursuing continuing to be a player or just any other career? Like, what was it that drew you to esports and wanting to build what you have?
Esports didn't, I was already 23 years old when I started pro gaming, like 22, 23. And, I'm 37 now. So that was almost 15 years ago that I got started. And, I played great for probably about 6 years. But, eventually you realize like, okay, well, there's got to be something next. And, I think I came in really early. The money was terrible back then. It wasn't very good if you're a pro gamer back in, 2006 through 2010. It wasn't anything spectacular. But, I think we, I think I'm trying trying to kind of put this into words. You just know, when you're not going to be able to compete at the highest level anymore. When you're at the world's best level, you just know you're not going to be able to keep it going when you know. And so there had to be something next, and I wanted to just provide as much opportunity. I felt like there was a lot that didn't get done, and that's obvious now during my career, right? Like there just wasn't enough opportunity, and there weren't many people out there pioneering, and so I wanted to push the envelope. And on truly, I just enjoyed what I was doing, first off and foremost. But second, I really just wanted to give somebody a better opportunity. I just wanted it to be bigger. I thought it was way too undervalued. There was so much more potential.
Yeah, I think
one of the esports in general,
Yeah, absolutely. No, one of the main focus points of this podcast is kind of showing that esports in a whole is more than just the game and the competitors and players and casters. It's a full industry in its own, and it's cool that you wanted to build that opportunity for others, because it's not everything that you see. It's not everything that people know or think about, and that's what we're trying to kind of shine a light on. Is this is a vast, expanding world that's still got tons of room to grow. So,
yeah, I mean, it does, and there's just so much more involvement that's happening from different groups or people or countries, governments. I mean, it's just there's this whole like movement behind esports that really can't be stopped. And and I just had this conversation with somebody yesterday. I can't remember who it was. I have a lot of phone calls every day, but we're talking about. I remember who it was, but yeah, we had this conversation about. I was talking to Alex Garfield, who was the founder of Evil Geniuses. It was a kind of legendary esports organization, and him and I were talking about how there are certain parts of esports that just will never change, and one of the things I was kind of harping on was the fact that there are these moments that happen in these video games, right? Like when in the competition between two teams or two players, and there are these moments that are just like unbelievable for the core people who play the game, right? For like the core casual or hardcore audience, that they know, the amount of skill that it just took, right, to make that play that is just incredible. And there are these like really crazy moments, just like you would see somebody hit a buzzer beater in the NBA finals to win it or something, Yeah. And we have those moments in esports, and they're plentiful. They happen almost every match. Somebody does something insane that the fans just can't fathom as being possible. And so that will never change. And as long as there's that excitement for that, which I think will be around for a long time, as long as people are willing to be competitive around video games, that excitement's not going to change, and those moments will be there in a lot of matches that we have. So I'm pretty excited about the future for esports, knowing that so many more people are jumping on board, and the industry has got a lot of tailwind behind it.
Yeah, that's super awesome. How did you feel? So in 2016, Envy you guys were named the esports team of the year. What did that mean to you? Is like, just from where you had started with Envy up until that point, what did that mean to you personally, and then obviously as an organization?
It was honestly a little shocking because not that we won it, we deserved it 100%. There was no other team that was better that year. Definitely. But it was just shocking because I was just not even expecting it, right? Like, I just didn't even I wasn't paying attention to any awards. I didn't care. I don't think our organization was just really keeping our head down and going out and winning tournaments. And we just did it a lot, and a lot of stuff just clicked. I didn't really think about that stuff, and I don't think anybody else really did at our organization. We were just out there to kind of uphold what our tradition had been. And, we just launched into, I think, a few more games that year. I think we were in like 4 or 5 games that year, probably 5. And I think we had won like the biggest tournaments of the year in 4 out of the 5. Mm-hmm. And so, that's like incredible. I don't know how many other people have had a year like that. I think Liquid had a fantastic year. I think it was last year. But it was special because it just commemorated what kind of year we had that year, and it was history in esports a lot of people really don't pay too much attention because we don't have like history, really written out history books yet, or lots of tracking for the industry. But I mean, if you go back and look at NV as an organization in 2016, I mean, I've only really seen one other year like that since then, or anywhere close, and I think that was Liquid's year. But yeah, and I'm talking in terms of multi-gaming organization, like just having success from game to game to game, and where your team ranked among the best. And I think that's a really great way to rate esports organizations in terms of competition. Look at the total pie that they've entered competition into.
Definitely. Yeah, it's I think you hit the nail on the head. I can't think of another org that's that has had a year that successful, and so it's really cool to hear how it affected you and the organization, what it meant to you in the organization. So really, really cool. How do you feel that the dynamics of esports has changed with the addition of let's just say Call of Duty League, the Overwatch League? Do you feel like esports has drastically changed since then? Do you think there's kind of a forward trend that's going with the development of these leagues, or do you feel like it'll kind of just be maintained to just these two games?
It's tough to say, to be honest. I think we'll see more of it, but probably only once these leagues probably become widely successful. So we're working. We work really close with Activision Blizzard Esports on both the Overwatch League and Call of Duty League. And I think it's so early on, I think, is what a lot of people have to realize. We're working really hard on it, and I think there are going to be some amazing developments with these two leagues. Like, it's just the first year for the Call of Duty League, first inaugural season, and also with the Overwatch League, it's the third season, and we've kind of had to survive through a pandemic, and we're able to show what esports can do right now during this time with COVID. But I think there's so much potential in the future, and we're so early on with these franchise leagues that maybe some other publishers and we'll probably wait a little bit longer to see how it goes before they decide to kind of create permanent leagues for their games. But I'm really enjoying every moment of participating in both of these leagues and thinking about how we can make it better every day.
How is it that you kind of envisioned your organization to be a welcoming and fostering organization, not only just for players but for a community? Because like one way that I see esports comparing to any traditional sport is you're a lot more connected to your community and your fans. Like, not everyone goes out there and plays hockey, not everyone goes out there and plays football, but when it comes to League of Legends, Call of Duty, Overwatch, the majority are bound to play that and understand it, and they're in the same community that these players are, and they're also a lot more they're able to connect with the players a lot more. So I think that's what creates such a unique bond and connection with organizations and teams between the players and their fans. So how did you kind of envision your organization, and how have you been building it to kind of foster that type of relationship and utilizing it to honestly grow? Like I know Dallas Fuel has an incredibly large following and fandom. So
you just made me sad, because I was really looking forward to bringing my personal just family and friends and people to games this year and being part of that community that you're talking about. It's just on hold for a little while because of the world around us right now. But I mean, that's the whole reason we invested into these leagues, is really just to connect with the fans better at a local level. And I mean, obviously at a global level, but really be able to connect with people, frequently in person at the local level, and any of the international or just domestic fans that would have to travel to our games or home games would also be able to experience that culture, that we wanted to create for our fans this year, in kind of launching out more home games. We were fortunate enough to have one weekend that we were able to hold before the pandemic hit, but we experienced something special, right? Like that weekend already. And so it's just on hold for a little while. I think that's what these leagues were kind of predicated on. And I think there's really, from what I've seen in the last two, events that we ran here in Dallas, I mean, the place was just insanely loud and crazy, and the fans were happy to be there. And I think we would be able to create a fantastic experience for them had we been able to hold more home games this season. And we'll get back to it at some point here soon. And I think we'll do really well with it, and the fans will have a great time.
Yeah, the world kind of, everybody is, I think, going into every year, everyone has the hope and the aspiration that, the next year will be, super fantastic for everybody. But this year is obviously been a little bit different. We could see with COVID and some of the things that we're seeing right now, as we're talking regarding, the disparities that are happening with, around our country right now. But for Ben and I, when these things happen, what do we naturally do? Especially, being in the Air Force, we look to our leaders. We look to who's at the helm. What are they going to say? What are their actions? How are they going to react? How do we follow them? And I guess my question to you would be, as the team owner of MV and the Fuel and the Empire, how have you been navigating kind of these global issues, right? And then how do you remedy them, or how do you get your team together, your whole org together, and steer them in the right direction? How have you navigated that through this difficult time?
Yeah, I mean, it's in many ways we were fortunate because most of the people that are working at our organization were with the company for quite a while, and we were able to have everybody be fairly tight knit at our headquarters for quite some time leading up to this. So I would say we were a little bit more prepared from the work from home strategy in that regard, because everybody kind of knew their role fairly well. I think we still shifted some things around, but people kind of understood the culture and the flow of our company at that point. And not only that, but we used to run the company basically from home, 5-6 years ago. And so we were set up already for that. We've kind of lived online for a long time. We've used anything from like TeamSpeak to Mumble to Discord to Skype, in the past, to just operate our business over the internet mostly. And then we would be traveling all over the world. You kind of had to operate online if you ran an esports team. So we're kind of prepared for the situation and have been. We're finally kind of starting to trickle back into our office now. But it's just different, right? It's not the way it was. So we've really just been able to kind of full force through it, and I'm really happy with our staff. To be honest, a lot really hasn't changed, and we actually had some incredible projects get done over this period while everyone was working from home. And we produced a 3-part docu-series for linear television from home and from nothing, right? Like we did it in 3 weeks. We delivered, the first episode from scratch, and from an idea, and it worked out really well. So we did a lot of great stuff during this time, and our teams handled it extremely well. And esports as a whole has been a fantastic opportunity, because a lot of the professional sports are down, and that big gap of content that's out there, and from linear television to just the media companies out there delivering media, and that big gap of content created some opportunity for more eyeballs to see esports. So that was great.
Yeah, esports really took the global stage as soon as traditional sports kind of had to seize for obvious reasons. But we saw stuff on ESPN, all over the internet. A lot of athletes and even maybe other celebrities were getting involved with either charitable esports events or streaming or whatever the like. And we really saw, and I've always hammer on this anytime I talk to anybody that maybe is not up to speed with esports, may not know what esports is, or people that are very passionate about esports, is the community that is gaming, that is esports, is very special. And it was through such a hard and tumultuous, kind of scary time for not just our country but for the world. We saw people from everywhere come together and take part in esports and have fun, and it was just super cool to kind of see esports have that moment, because it has over probably about the last 10 years. Esports has just consistently grown since then, and we've really been able to see what esports is really about, what organizations are really about, how multiple organizations are coming together and doing certain things. It was just super cool to see how that all kind of has happened and is still happening, really, until up today. And I'm sure it'll be like that going forward. It's just really cool to kind of see how everybody's pulled together and just shown their passion and their love for esports and gaming in general. So, yeah, it's really cool to hear kind of how you've been at the helm of everything, have helped navigate your organization and hear about some of the things that you guys have done, really through being limited in scope to what you're able to do, and put out such great big things. It's really cool to hear about that.
Yeah, no, thanks. It's been an ache for me to get back to it. I mean, we had some really cool stuff planned before this happened, so we're excited to get back to what our plans are as soon as we can, and also just excited to come up with better ways and to connect with our fans. So yeah, we're happy to get back to it when we can, and really trying to do the best that I can to give the fans as good of an experience as I can, no matter what happens in the near future.
I think so. There was along the leadership role and such. There was in your episode with Hector in the Eavesdrop podcast. You said, "I'm not your boss. I'm your teammate." And so that kind of like really resonated with me in your philosophy of how you want to be a leader and how you want to be seen by the team and such. And so I just kind of I was a little more curious in how do you see yourself in that role, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just try to be as open as possible. I keep telling people on my staff, a lot of them just really don't call me that much, but I keep telling them, like, I want you to call my phone. If you have an idea, if you just want to talk about something esports related, if you have just some recommendation, I mean, anything. And I don't think my staff to this day calls me enough. But yeah, I really do. I really don't like to be called a boss. I don't like to be called. It really actually bothers me to be called a boss, and I'll correct people. I don't want to be called that. I want to be referred to as like a teammate, and I should be held a little bit accountable too. And I very much act like I used to when I played Call of Duty with my teammates. Probably more so towards the later end of my career. But yeah, I mean, I try to deal with every staff member of our organization the same way I would deal with the players in our organization. And I would hope that they look at me the same way. We're all part of a team.
That's just awesome. In a way where Craig and I are both in the Air Force, you see a lot of leadership. You deal with a lot of leadership, and everyone kind of has their own way that they see a leader, a way that they want to be a leader, and I've always totally enjoyed those who I've always the ones who wanted kind of were the same way. Like my commander now, he's kind of got the same scope of you can talk to him anytime. He's on the team. He's working with us just as much as we're working for him in a respect, and so it creates a whole different culture and like vibe and morale in the org. So that's I just really respect that. So
yeah, and look, I'm not perfect, and it's not always sometimes it can backfire a little bit, but it's better to just approach it that way, in my opinion. And I don't think everyone. You mentioned everyone is kind of a little different in how they view that, and so that's absolutely right. I mean, there might be people within our organization that appreciate that so much, the fact that you're just another teammate and that they can have that opportunity to talk to you like that. And some people just actually like despise it, and, and want a little bit more, or want more like hardline leadership. So, everybody's a little different, but genuinely, I think it's just become my philosophy because it's just the nature of who I am.
It's really, it's infectious too. You know what I mean? If you have, no one wants to work for anybody that rules with an iron fist, right? I mean, it just creates uneasiness. It, could create distrust or whatever it is. But to be able to say like, hey, I'm next to you, like, let's do this together. And I love the fact that, you're saying like, hey, I'm your teammate. And that just shows really, to me, in my opinion, true leadership. You know what I mean? You're there, you're there, while you could be at the front, front of the pack at times to lead things, you're also there on the, same side of the, other side of the coin. You're right there next to your guys. You're right there next to your team, whether it's, your staff, players, whoever it is. And to me, that's just, and I've experienced that in my career in the Air Force. I've had some phenomenal leaders, commanders that, when you talk to them, they're right there next to you, helping you navigate, whether it's, professional development or maybe some personal issues. And it's really empowering. And it's, I don't know, there's just a kind of a comfort and empowerment and assurance when moments like that happen, and that you're in amazing and great hands. That just is it's a kind of a trickle down effect, but then it's also a spider web effect. It goes out to everybody else. And if you put it into action, other people are able to visualize, they're able to see it happening. And that indirectly can give them, that gives them that comfort, that assurance that they have that teammate in the person that they're witnessing that stuff from. So that's super cool. And for you to just, to use the term teammate is I don't know. I love it. I love it's super inclusive, but it's assuring at the same time,
Yeah. I mean, I hope some of my players will remember that I said that to them, like, man, I can't tell you how many players I've said that to, but hopefully they'll remember that and they'll, pass that on in the same way. Hopefully that becomes a theme for them, and they can work with their teammates and whatever they do in life the same way. And you can apply that to family life. You can apply it to a lot of things, and everybody's contributing when you're working on something, and that doesn't exclude the people who are having to lead.
So kind of being that you are in a leadership role, you've obviously had to deal with a lot of the organizational structure of hiring and positioning people and finding the right spot for people to work within your organization and stuff. And so we'd just be a little curious to what would be your kind of advice, your lessons learned.
I shouldn't be giving advice on that. I'm serious. I'm not good at it. In terms of management and staffing, people in the right places, I'm not good at it. I'm just not. I actually rely on our president and COO Jeff Moore to do that stuff, because I honestly have just been bad at it, because I come from a world when we were hiring people, you did everything,
Mm-hmm.
And so now I think I've just been jaded by that, and I can't even begin to fathom like who should be doing what. Sometimes it's rough, but yeah, I mean, sorry, I just probably give you a straight up answer instead of a bad one.
We want this to be real. We want it. It's always forward. So I mean, that's what we want. But would you have any advice for maybe someone wanting to get into the scene or working in the industry, of what they might want to know before?
It's so competitive now.
Yeah,
it's so competitive now. There's so many people that want to work in esports now. I would say you have to pick what you really want to do, that you're really going to enjoy. I talk about passion a lot when people talk to me or ask me questions, and you have to be passionate about whatever you choose to do. You really do. I would say pick it out early if you can, or discover it early. And if you can't, it's okay. Take your time. But you need to find that thing that you really want to do, that you can do for a long time and it doesn't feel like work. And when you know what that is, then go attack it full on and start doing it immediately. And you'll probably have to sacrifice a little bit because, the job market in esports is just so tight right now. It's the teams don't have huge staffs, and there are lots of people out there in the world who would love to have a career in esports. So, start as early as you can, finding out what you want to do, and then really start contacting people and trying to work as much as you can doing what you want to do.
We had Katie on for the first episode. I tend to reference her a lot, but yeah, she said basically her biggest advice was networking was key and fundamental to getting anywhere. So it's interesting hearing from just a different perspective of you've got to have the passion behind it before you can try to figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, relationships are always key in business, I think, because, no business that I know of doesn't interact with other businesses and or people. And so, you always have to have relationships in some way. But, even with relationships, if you don't love what you're doing, you're going to get burnt out. You're not going to probably strive to be at the top because you're not going to be realizing your real full potential. You're going to be kind of hampered by the fact that you don't want to be doing what you're doing, and you're not going to put maximum effort into it. When you're passionate about something, I mean, it doesn't even feel like work. So you keep pushing and pushing, and I think that's important.
Yeah, I think it's, from maybe my perspective. So been in the Air Force for 8 years and coming to a juncture in my career here in a few years. Hey, do I want to leave? Do I want to, stay in? I have a deep, deep burning passion for esports. Just kind of growing up, grew up born in the 80s, and video games has just kind of been like intrinsically woven into, myself. And I think maybe my generation of individuals, but with always having that competitive bone in my body, whether it was traditional sports or now esports, I've been very, very intrigued about, pursuing a career. And I know one of the things that is maybe a little bit scary or could be intimidating for anyone that would be departing the military, not just for the Air Force, but the military in general, I think, is the requirements, and that goes with any job. You see a job posting and they're like, hey, you got to have 5 years experience doing this or that. With esports being so new, and when we say new, like really what we've seen is the boom of esports really within just in my personal opinion, probably the last 4 or 5 years, and people feeling like they have the necessary experience to go out and say, hey, I want to go apply for, I want to go work for this organization, or I want to go work for this organization, or, hey, I want to start my own organization. Do you feel like that is maybe like a fair assessment that like there hasn't been enough time to develop maybe the job experience or the industry experience for this? Or do you say, hey, just do what you got to do to make yourself stand out and like you're saying, really show how passionate you are and allow that to carry you?
It's never too early to be entrepreneurial. I mean,
I like that.
You should always, I mean, look, if you want to get started, and even if you don't know what you're doing, you might learn a little thing or two along the way that helps you, contribute to your success. So I won't ever tell anybody to not get started on something because they might not be too knowledgeable about it. So, I say go for it. Maybe even if you're not passionate about it that much, if it's just a good entry point and that later on you could just use something from it. So I'd say get started as early as you want.
Awesome. Yeah. I like that. It's never too early to be entrepreneurial. Yeah. We see it more than just esports, right? Streaming content creation is a big thing. And some people find their liking and their passion to that and get started. But also the esports and gaming, esports is not just about the player or the team. It's, it is a business. There's owners and there's staff and everything else. So it's kind of cool because in my experience, and just being in the military, there are so many talented individuals that I'm like, man, like you would really kill it, like if you pursued that or pursue that. And just talking with other, guys and gals that I've worked with that do like gaming and hearing kind of their passion for it, I'm like, you should definitely do it. And I think we could take that little bit of advice you just gave. It's not too early to be, never too early to be an entrepreneur. I dig that. I dig that a lot.
Yeah, I just came up with that.
Right off the top of the off the dome.
Yeah, never said that before.
I dig it. I dig it for sure.
But it is true.
So how do you, being where you're at with Envy and Dallas, the Fuel and the Empire, how do you handle family life with being the CEO of such prominent esports orgs and teams? How do you handle that? How do you navigate it? Are there any, is it easy? Is it difficult? I'm married. I have 5 kids. So, I can only imagine, even just being married and having a few kids, what your life would be like. How do you handle some of that?
Yeah, it's takes an incredibly flexible wife, who understands long hours and understands that there's support that's needed. But thankfully I have one of those, and just maintaining family is important to me. So I can't speak for everyone else, but if you go look at my tweeting activity in the past 2 years, it's drastically gone down. I just don't do it nearly as much anymore. I don't, I'm kind of a boring guy in general from a content perspective, but I just haven't really been doing too much of that stuff because I've been trying to focus on my family as much as I can. And, it's difficult because there are only so many hours in the day. And a long time ago, I would just, I'd be so enveloped in esports, whether that be just playing games or watching games or working with our team, whatever it was. But nowadays, there's obviously a part of me that lives on another side, and that's with my wife and child and extended family. So, it's not, I wouldn't say it's difficult, but there is a balance that needs to be had there.
Yeah, I'm a very firm believer that, or maybe I should just, a little bit of praise for, you mentioned your wife and her being flexible and supportive. And I know Ben can attest to it, even though he's not married, but I know he's, he's around other airmen that are married and probably have families and kids. And the wife is always such a rock, especially, having children. And I could definitely attest that to my wife, being working long hours, with that, whatever I've been doing in my career, there's times where I'm pulling 12-hour shifts, and, she's at home, handling the fort. She's there with my kids, taking care of my kids, providing for my kids. And it's reassuring. And I can only imagine in the moments that you're busy, that, your wife does that with your child. And that's just sort of this assurance, but it's such an incredible support. When you do have those busy moments, everybody's gonna have that busy moment in their career. It could be a day or two, it could be a few weeks, it could be a month,
could be a couple of years.
It definitely, yes, it could be a couple of years. And I try my best, and I know that a lot of times I have to take a moment to step back and reflect how much support I have, outside of my work family or outside of, my military family, and it's the most important is your family at home. And just knowing that my wife is just holds it down. She is such a rock for our family. And I know you're a busy man, and it's really cool to hear that your wife does the same. She's there for you. She's flexible. She's understanding, and she's there for your children. And I don't know, that's just super cool. And I think it goes overlooked a lot. I think it does. I honestly do. And maybe that's just my military perspective, because I obviously don't work in the esports industry, but just from, my perspective with what I do in my career, I've not just my wife, but, my coworkers, other airmen's wives, they get together, and if their airmen are deployed or whatever it may be, they come together because their husbands are gone, and they're away from husbands or away from their wife and their children, but the wives come together and just create this amazing support system, and they'd really just truly showcase their support and their just awesomeness through all that. So
yeah, man, I really actually need to go and do something more for my wife now. I mean, just talking about it, it's like, I owe her so much, man. And sometimes, as a busy guy, you take it for granted. So definitely a good reminder out there for all the married men. They do a lot for sure.
Yeah, it's like you're saying, we all get caught up in the busyness of schedules and whatnot, but it's always the cool thing to, like you said just a few minutes ago, kind of allowing things to slow down. And I think it's not always a bad thing to do that, to have a moment in time where you're going at 110%, but then you get to the realization and a point where you just say, life needs to slow down just a little bit. And the people that have either gotten me to where I'm at, or that are just a huge support line to me, they deserve a little bit of that time too. I experience it a lot in my career, and but yeah, I'm right there with you too. I got to get her. Hopefully, when things really start opening up a little more and we could do a little more things, definitely treat her in a really good way. So I'm right there. I'm right there with you, brother.
So yeah, that hit home. I gotta take care of the wife, man. And always want to be better there for sure. I've been a father too, though, and I think I've been doing a great job, as a father, just because that's one of those things now I'm really passionate about, right? Like, it's become one of those things for me that I can't get enough of, and so I do enjoy spending a lot of time with my daughter and joking around with her and seeing her grow up. But yeah, man, family's important, and I can't complain here because I'm looking forward to growing it more. We have a second one on the way too. So,
congratulations!
Thank
Congrats.
you. Now, are we at the end here where you guys don't have any more questions for me? Because I have questions for you guys.
Go for it.
Or did you guys have more?
Ben, I don't know, Ben, if you had anything.
Oh yeah,
I mean, if you have questions, we'll take them.
Let's do it.
We're good.
So they're mostly airmen listening to this podcast.
So yeah, it's available for everybody. But our targeted audience is service members and military, and kind of trying to not only help military and service members who might want to get into the industry or learn more about the industry. And I mean that goes for everybody who wants to listen. But also it kind of serves as an education tool for our leadership. Craig and I are working on a project, Air Force Gaming, to basically try and be the official esports organization and gaming community for the Air Force, like the U.S. Army esports. And so,
yeah, I met some people from San Antonio, a group out of there that were working hard towards it recently, which was great. That sounds like there are a lot of people in the Air Force who love esports.
Definitely.
Yeah, and so we're trying to just reach out to those, and for the leadership, it's an education tool for them, because a lot of our roadblocks have been kind of teaching an older generation of this is esports and this is why it matters, and so this is kind of another tool for them to see it and be like, wow, this is a lot more than just video games.
Oh, that's great. So I've always been, kind of amazed by all of our military branches, and have a deep appreciation for what you guys do. Maybe you guys can tell me what you specialized in, and you just be honest. Tell me what you guys did.
Sure. I'll start. So I'm naturally by trade what we call an AFSC, which is basically a specialty code for what you do. I'm a 2 Alpha, which is an aircraft maintainer. So I've got to work on C-130 aircraft. I now work on F-35 aircraft. And in the moment, what I'm currently doing is more of like a liaison. So we have exercises and stuff that we do, and I kind of act as a liaison for other units that come and visit where I'm currently at and the home base, so that they can effectively carry out their exercise and other stuff. But it's really cool experience to be able to put my hands on, aircraft, maintain, fix aircraft that the normal everyday person probably won't ever get to do. So I've got to sit. Part of my job is being able to get to sit in the seat of an F-35 aircraft and run the engine for troubleshooting and stuff like that. And I don't know, besides a pilot that actually gets to fly the aircraft, I don't know how very many people will ever have the chance to do that. So it's really cool to.
I'm into that stuff, man. Just so you know,
dude. If you have any questions about anything,
what's the helmet called? It's the HDDM. Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the 35 the 35 pilots have their own. It's their own specialized helmet, and for certain reasons I can't share like a whole too much, but I will say that thing is it's a technological wonder. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I've seen some pretty gnarly stuff about it. I mean, it's so cool because I've always looked at, my dad, I think my father was really into aircraft, and like super into it. He was just always about it. And so went to air shows, watched a lot of documentaries and stuff about aircraft. So I learned a lot about it, but he would always, explain to me how that is like the peak pinnacle of human technology, and the biggest advancements will always come in aircraft. Yeah. And so anyway, I've always just followed it my whole life, man, and really into kind of the tech behind the aircraft. So pretty neat stuff. I know what you're working on. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's been passed. My grandfather, he was a naval aircraft mechanic. After he got out of, after he finished his service, he went to work for Rockwell, which is now Boeing. He got to work on some pretty cool, just normal everyday aircraft, but he also got to work on one of the Apollo space shuttles, which was super, super cool. And he would always take me. I grew up in Southern California, so he would always take me to John Wayne Airport or any of the other airports around there, and I would just sit and watch airplanes like take off and land all day. And I was always fascinated by it. So later on in life, fast forward 25 plus years after that, I'd always said, what do I want to do? And the Air Force obviously was, I always felt moved to wear a uniform just to, I guess the term serve and protect or just to serve my country, but whether it was through law enforcement or the military, and the Air Force ended up winning out. But to have the opportunity when they told me and said, hey, we have this job available. Do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah, it's in my blood. So I've got to see some pretty cool things. Again, not things that not the average person will get to see, but to be able to, the coolest part for me was when I started working on the F-35 was to be able to, sit in the aircraft and to run that engine and troubleshoot it and do a whole bunch of other things. It was one of the coolest things I think I'll ever get to do in my life. So if you have any question about anything, like, throw it my way, and I'd love to talk about it, because it's, something. It's a very demanding, physically demanding career, but at the same time, it's very it can be very rewarding as well. Not only for fixing things, but who and why we're fixing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, pretty neat stuff, man. I mean, it's just, yeah, you're working on some of the most advanced technology in the world, and it's neat.
Oh yeah. What about you, Ben?
So I don't work with the cool planes. So I'm a 3PO, and that's security forces. So it's just every base is different. What mission you do, so it's kind of cool. And if you move to a different base, you could be doing a completely different job. And there's a lot of different paths you can go down with. But like in my last base, I was doing nuclear security and convoys and stuff like that. And then just at my current base, just doing law enforcement. So the same everyday work you'd see anywhere else.
Well, yeah, that's incredible stuff, man. You guys have probably traveled a little bit and seen quite a lot too. That's probably part of the job, right?
It's definitely what you sign up. Part of what you sign up for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a free vacation to Hawaii, so I can't complain there.
Yeah, there you go.
Sweet.
Yeah, I mean that's great, and always had an appreciation, man. So thank you guys.
I appreciate that. Thank you for your words.
Yep. Okay, you can go back to asking me questions. I was just kind of curious what you guys were up to.
No problem.
No, it's and that's cool that you want to know about that, because it's here we are asking you, hey, all this esports stuff, and we get to, cool that we get to elaborate a little bit, because there's thousands upon thousands of airmen that do so many other things, and it's such a cool team effort to see so many different career fields come together. Because when I, doing aircraft maintenance, it's not just me fixing planes. There's other people that are working on other aspects of the plane or parts. Like, hey, we really need this part, and they're airmen that work their butt off to make sure that a certain part is sent to you within a reasonable time frame. And it's just so expansive. There's more than the typical, hey, just flying plane type stuff. There's so many people that contribute to so many different types of missions, and it's I don't know, I love it, and I'm thankful for every airman that I get to serve alongside with. It's whether they're single or they're married and have a family or whatever. There's always that sacrifice involved, and it's for really, obviously, for the greater good. So, but again, back to some of the other stuff, maybe asking you, what's been your absolute favorite esports moment, whether it was as a player or as an owner? What's been your absolute favorite esports moment?
That's tough. Yeah, there are a couple that are up there, man. It's so hard to choose. I would say
we'll take a couple. If it can't be just one, we'll take a couple.
Yeah, I mean, mine, I think I've said it recently. Hopefully I'm not straying away from what I did say originally. There's so many, it's okay if it's different every time I do an interview or jump on a podcast.
For sure.
Yeah, I think probably holding our first homestand in Dallas. It was wild. There were 5,000 people that, showed up and sold out the arena for us or bought out the arena. And so the fans were super loud this is for the Dallas Fuel and the Overwatch League when we held our first home games. And this is April 2019. So not too long ago. But yeah, there was just seeing that crowd and knowing that that's what we have to look forward to in Dallas, and to know that many people care about esports and are willing to buy a ticket and show up and have a beer and cheer for the team or have a hot dog or pizza, and saw families wearing our jerseys. I mean, it was an incredible feeling to see all of that come together. So yeah, I would say that's probably been my favorite esports moment.
I feel like that's kind of that probably was like a sense of relief in your part too, though, because like it's like a kind of a culmination of these things you've been working years for, and you finally got to like see it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd been, I'd seen arenas get sold out. I've been to some of the biggest esports tournaments that have ever happened. In terms of size of the crowd and the spectators that were there and the magnitude of the events and so on. But yeah, man, like our crowd was just as loud as ESL 1 Cologne in 2015, or wow. Some of these big major tournaments, they were loud. And that was just incredible to be able to get that feeling literally 10 minutes away from my house, was cool. So cool, man. So not even 10 minutes, actually. I live about 5 minutes from there where we had it. And so,
holy moly.
Nuts. Yeah, felt good.
Well, I'll kind of hit us with our last question here. Just kind of curious, which I'm sure there's probably plenty that you have, but you can't say. But is there anything that you're really looking forward to, really excited about, that you're kind of working on, or to come around?
There are lots of things I'm excited about, man.
I mean, that's good.
I've been somewhat vocal about it. I mean, we have our new HQ that we're building right now. Building it out and finishing it off now. So I'm excited about that, but I'm also excited about, I think there's some real potential for us to work with one of the municipalities around Dallas-Fort Worth to develop a real estate a deal that would, give us an esports arena here. And so those are things that we've been working on for well over a year now, about a year and a half, almost a couple of years, to be honest. And, we're starting to see some real opportunity there. And, there's, I don't know how long it'll take, but, pre-pandemic, it was looking great. And so I think we're still on that trajectory of trying to figure out a home venue to kind of lead out in Texas with a real esports arena that's purpose built, not renovated.
I'm going to keep my eyes peeled for that, especially. I mean, I'm on both fronts, the headquarters and then something like that, because that to me, especially an arena like you're saying, purposely built, to me that is that's huge, because we see a lot of different events taking place anywhere in other places, but to have like your own place to call home, that's awesome. And I'm super excited for both the headquarters portion, and then for the stadium. That's awesome. I'm in Vegas. I'm stationed in Vegas.
Well, I'm not guaranteeing anything, but
oh, for sure.
But we're working towards it, and I'm excited at the prospects of it. I mean, there's opportunity that's there, I think, nowadays. But obviously, we have to get through this pandemic and fight this thing and make sure everyone's safe first. I mean,
100%. Yeah,
that's really a priority right now. But in a kind of pre-pandemic world, or a world where we kind of have control of the situation, we can have large gatherings again. That's the one thing I'm excited about.
Definitely.
I didn't mean to cut you off there. Sorry.
No, you're good. It's and that's just the reality of it, right? Hey, it's no promises, but and again, if it does, I think it's huge. I'm in Vegas, so I've been able to attend certain esports events, and it's been super cool. But one of the things that I've been wanting to do is go back home to California and check out some of the stuff there in Orange County, Irvine, with Blizzard and all the other stuff. I haven't been able to do that, obviously, because of the pandemic. So when I get that opportunity, I want to be able to experience it. I think it'd be really cool and unique. But if it does happen on your part, it's definitely something I personally will keep my eyes peeled for and be super excited about.
Well, great. Well, you guys should always just let me know how I can help to get you guys or the Air Force more involved, or how I can help you guys. When you guys are kind of pushing for the future of esports with your fellow airmen and Air Force.
Oh, definitely. That would be phenomenal and amazing.
That would be. I can't say it better. But if you don't have any more questions for us, or if Craig doesn't have anything else, I'll close it out here for us.
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm all good too. Just thanks for having me, and wishing all the best to all the airmen out there listening, and everybody else, and your families during this time. Stay healthy and stay safe.
Yeah, we really appreciate you coming on. I know Craig and I both are we're really excited and looking forward to this episode, just to kind of see from an entirely different level, a different idol kind of, we could say, in esports. So definitely we appreciate the time.
Yeah, I kept saying Air Force, but all the service members out there who are listening.
It's okay, we're the best, but we'll take it.
Oh, yeah.
But this has been episode 3 of Alpha Foxtrot, and we will see you next week.